always works.
Yeah. And we are now live. Sweet. Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Insert Title here. There's usually like titles for these kinds of live chat things. Like, you know, how I host the Fourth Leg and all of that. But no, just welcome to my channel. I'm Kelsey D. I am a comic artist. Today, I'm going to be having a live chat with my buddy, Ben. Say hi, Ben.
Hi, Ben.
Thank you. I'm glad I'm not the only one that does that gag.
Yep.
I'm like the only one in my podcast that does that. And my co-hosts are like, every time.
Yeah, of course. I mean, when you get that lead up, you have to. It's Dimension 20 rules.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now, I don't know how many folks are going to be tuning in live, but this will be available as a replay on my YouTube channel at youtube.com at Kelsey D. You can also catch Ben here on his own YouTube channel. What is your YouTube channel's handle?
youtube.com/@BWHcomics.
There you go.
I don't know why they put the ad in there. It's such a weird choice, but whatever.
Well, they probably started doing that to simplify being able to share your channel.
Oh, yeah. Don't get me wrong. Better than the random string of characters. Just drop the ad.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you would like to check out more of Ben's work, because he does webcomics as well, and he's got graphic novels galore, check it out at bwhcomics.com. With all of that said and done, today we're going to be discussing social media. In particular, I would like to discuss the inevitable end of social media and what indie creators, particularly indie comics artists, can do to offset the changes that are happening. And the reason I thought about that is because with the last couple of years, we've seen Instagram kind of collapse in on itself. Facebook is having a meltdown. Twitter is on fire. And TikTok, when TikTok came on the scene, the most common response that I heard from other artists was, oh, great, another social media platform to start posting on.
Yeah.
So,
one thing that I think is probably a good idea to bring up before we really get started, just because it is a risk whenever we talk about this, whenever this kind of subject is talked about, a lot of this is speculation on our parts. We're talking theories about what we think is going to happen. In a year's time, in 5 years' time, we might look back at this and go, whoa, we really got this wrong. That's okay. This is about, wondering what's going to happen, talking about our own personal theories and things like that. I do this kind of warning just because I always think of Scott McCloud with this. For anyone who doesn't know, Scott McCloud is one of the premier writers of comics-based like textbook literature. Like he wrote Understanding Comics and Making Comics, which are considered must-have books for pretty much all people working in indie comics.
You're going to bring up Reinventing Comics, aren't you?
I'm going to bring up Reinventing Comics, which I personally love, and he's talked about how he gets so much crap for it because he was making predictions and they didn't come true.
Yep.
And it's one of those things that people tend to get flack about, and I say, part of the point of speculating is that it's speculation.
Well, I'm not really interested in speculating as much in this particular stream. I'm more interested in alternatives to social media, which is what I would like to discuss more.
Okay.
Because other people can speculate about, how social medias are going to end or things like that. And I'm sure that there would be people who are sitting on their high horse predicting that MySpace, like they had predicted the end of MySpace or whatever. But the thing is,
I've heard that MySpace is still around. It became an indie music hub after everyone moved away from it.
Yeah. Well, good for them.
Yeah.
I also thought about this because of an article that I came across. Shout out to email newsletter The Morning Brew, because not only do they help condense a lot of the mainline headlines so that you're like caught up on the news, but they also share in their own little like kind of lifestyle, quote unquote, sections, things that they just come across online that are like, hey, this could be interesting talk at the water cooler or whatever. One of the articles that they shared was something called the in-shitification of social media. And it was that really, for me, started the spiral of wanting to have this sit down chat with you about the end of social media and possible ways to mitigate that. Because the thing about that article, it talked a lot about how it is that social media platforms start and then how they become really bloated. And the examples that were immediately brought up were Instagram and Amazon. Because when Amazon and Instagram started, they started as, hey, we're going to drive down costs for the users, for the average layperson to come in and be like, oh, I can get this for free or relatively cheap. Did hurt a lot of businesses, but the social media platforms at first were way more interested in roping in users.
Right.
Then once they got that user base, they were like, hey, we should try to monetize this. And then they started reaching out to businesses and incentivizing things for businesses to start spending their money there. So the enshittification process basically ropes in users first. And then once they get a sizable enough user base, they bring in the businesses to sell things to those users. And then after a while, the platform starts making policy changes that affect both the businesses and the individuals in really bad ways. Facebook, I think, is a prime example of this.
Yeah.
Because
we're going to be playing at Facebook a lot.
Oh, yeah. Nobody has anything positive to say about Facebook anymore. And part of the process of enshittification is, and this is something I actually have set aside in my notes, the idea that social media starts out as fun and then it loses the element of fun and becomes an obligation.
Yeah, it's funny because one of the other factors, it's almost impossible to imagine the internet now without social media. But like you and I have been around long enough to have seen multiple different versions of the internet as it's evolved and had all kinds of things. The concept of social media is not that old.
It really isn't in the grand scheme of things. It's only been around for like 10 years, maybe.
I should also clarify that I don't necessarily think social media is going to go away entirely, but I do think its relevance is dying. That's the big thing for me.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think it's like Twitter's going to have a presence for a long ass time, but I think increasingly it's not doing anything for creators like you and me to have internet presences. It just isn't.
Well, to have social media presence.
Social media presences, excuse me.
It's because like a presence on the internet is still overall a good thing for creators to have because it should be at least a public platform for people to post their things freely. Now, the discussion of whether that access is equal and unlimited is a discussion for another day. We're not here to have that discussion. We're here to discuss alternative ways for creators to get their work out there that's not based in social media, just in case social media does implode on itself. Because I see it happening that way, where either social media implodes on itself, like with Facebook is doing with Meta right now, or they just I just see Twitter as just kicking and screaming into the sunset. Like, maybe it's still relevant. I don't think so. Part of the process of enshittification that I see, this wasn't brought up in the article, but the part of it that I see was something that actually another YouTube channel, The Financial Diet, brought up, which is how influencers are leaving the platforms that they got really big on because they just hate the platforms now.
Yeah.
Like a lot of Instagram influencers are like, I really hate Instagram now. I'm leaving this platform, which, good on them. Must be terrifying because, like, having built up their brand and their presence on just one platform, I imagine that is really scary to transition out of that all of a sudden.
Oh, absolutely. There was an example of this that it was brought up a while back by Aaron Hansen, also known as Egoraptor. He was a big animator back on E-Bombs World, for anyone who remembers that. That was a in case anyone doesn't know, that was a pre-YouTube site, almost all animation. It was a big deal on the internet, and then YouTube ended up kind of taking everything over with it. But one of the things Aaron talked about, he's now one of the Game Grumps. You might have heard about him if you follow those channels. But one of the things he's talked about is that overnight, the requirements for doing stuff on E-Bombs World changed, and all of a sudden, it wasn't E-Bombs World, it was Newgrounds, excuse me. Two sites.
Yeah, I was about to say, I do not recall him being on E-Bombs World.
It was
Newgrounds, yes.
By the way, there used to be plural video sites. That was great. But one of the things he brought up is like the rules changed overnight, and all of a sudden, everyone who'd set up a career as an animator on this site was suddenly out of a job because they built their entire business on that.
Yep.
And he was bringing it up as to say that tomorrow YouTube could change how their algorithm works, and every one of these businesses could be out of a job again. Like, this stuff changes fast.
Yeah. Like, I feel like people kind of forget that YouTube toes this really weird line between being a platform and being a social media place, because there's a difference between the two.
Yeah. And also, yesterday or the day before, there was a huge announcement about YouTube that people should be ready. There might be some big changes coming.
Well, yeah, because the CEO is stepping down.
Yeah. Do you know who's stepping into her place?
No, the news that I looked at this morning did not mention names, just that she was stepping down as CEO.
Yeah. So my source on this, there's a YouTuber named Jesse Cox who does a thing called 5-Minute Gaming News, which is just a quick 5-minute video he does every weekday to talk about what's happening in the gaming world. And it is opinionated and stuff like that. But the main thing he brought up is that a lot of people really didn't like the CEO that just left. She did a lot of the problems that started with the algorithm and people starting to not like working, using YouTube as a professional job and things like that started when she came on board. The person replacing her has long been a big proponent of Web3 and NFTs.
Ugh, okay.
So yeah, it is very possible that we will be looking at some significant changes to the channel we're streaming to right now. So it's another reason why it's a good idea we're talking about this kind of stuff. Yeah,
exactly. And like, yeah, I do feel like I need to bring this up. There is a difference between a platform and a social media outlet, because a platform is a place where you can publish stuff, whether you publish a video, a blog post, your art, whatever it is. By that definition, a blog that you run is a platform. But social media is someplace for people to share stuff and get their opinions out there, whether those opinions are good or not.
Out of curiosity, where would Tumblr fall in that for you?
Tumblr,
because it's kind of
it is both. So because it kind of falls in the same category as YouTube for me, because YouTube has elements of both. Tumblr also has elements of both. And that's why people are so utterly baffled by Tumblr, because they don't recognize the platform elements of it. They just see it as, oh, it has to be social media because it has a snazzy name like Tumblr, and you're able to reblog other people's stuff. But it is its own beast, kind of like how YouTube is its own weird beast.
Yeah. It's one of the things that before I had my own website, I had a Tumblr. Like, actually, it's one of the things I set up at when I was at the Center for Cartoon Studies, when they were talking about how we all needed to have some sort of online presence and things like that. And someone recommended I give Tumblr a try for posting my stuff. And it didn't last long. It's still technically there, but like, it was not at all the venue for me. It was not a good fit.
Tumblr is really more for either people in who are really hardcore into fandoms, or people who are up at 4 a.m. reblogging memes.
Yeah. Weirdly, like, even though I've never been able to get into Tumblr, I have this special kind of respect for it just because it is very much a niche platform that fits its niches very well.
It does. Yeah.
And I'm not part of that niche, but I can respect other people who are in it.
Oh, yeah. I feel like it is a little bit made more for like somebody like me who's got really strong opinions about particular fandoms or like particular thoughts in fandoms. Like, don't be prepared if you follow me on Tumblr. Be prepared for like some opinionated piece about how this character from Kingdom Hearts is absolutely ace because of these reasons.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a friend who used to post a lot on Tumblr, and what always threw me was that they would post most of what they wanted to say in the hashtags.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That was the weirdest thing to try for me to understand, because I'd look at these hashtags, and each hashtag would be crazy long strings of characters because just what they were saying.
Yeah, no, hashtags with Tumblr they're a separate language.
Yeah.
It's where you basically type in your thoughts. It's because like hashtags, hi Susu, wrong pronouns for me, but that's okay. I understand the confusion. But anyway, the hashtags in Tumblr are, they're more for personal thoughts and less for cataloging.
Yeah.
Which is different from most social media platforms, because most social media platforms use hashtags as a form of cataloging.
Yeah. Which it's funny, I still do that a lot with hashtags, even though I've been told that makes me old. Because like most of the platforms that use hashtags now don't require them. You can just type words and they'll figure it out. But I kind of like the hashtag just because it lets you throw stuff in there and everyone's like, oh, it's fine. It's a hashtag. You can just ignore that for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting that you bring that up. That actually explains a lot of the posts that I've been posting up on Instagram. Because the thing about Instagram is now it's gotten to a point, going back to the topic of the inshitification of platforms, where the only things crawling through particular hashtags and looking to reply to posts that use those hashtags are bots. Because bots will comb for hashtags and they will leave stupid spam on posts that use specific hashtags. That's how you know that that particular hashtag is quote unquote dusty, as an art colleague of mine put it. Because at one point we were talking about using Instagram and other social media. We also talked about TikTok, but I'll save that for a little bit later.
Yeah.
But he was talking about how you have to like refresh your tags after particular points because certain hashtags will get dusty, aka they start accumulating more bots trolling through looking for people who use those hashtags to leave comments like, looks great, send this to, and then they mention another thing.
It's not just hashtags, by the way. Because I don't use any location-based hashtags, but I often tag what city I'm posting in. If I'm in Columbus, I'm posting Columbus. I'm tagging Columbus, Ohio whenever I'm posting my comics, or I do the same thing when I'm back in Richmond. And that's what most of my bots grab onto.
Yeah, well, they grab onto your location.
Every single time I do a post, I get a comment that says, share on Ohio Picks or Ohio Family. And if you're one of the things that is redirecting to, like Ohio Family, just know I've blocked you. Like as soon as I see that someone has a bot that's doing that, I block and report the bot, and I block the whatever they're trying to send stuff to.
Yeah, I usually come through and I delete those particular comments. So
yeah, it annoys me whenever I see that stuff.
Yeah. Susu brings up something that I am wondering. Hashtags still work on Twitter? I was under the impression that they don't anymore.
No, they work. It's just you don't need to do them.
Okay.
I mean, that's the last I heard about that was about a year ago. So maybe that's changed.
Probably because of Elon Twat. But
by the way, did you hear that they're now talking about doing Twitter Blue, which if you pay them,
they've been talking about that for months, and people have riffed on it for good reason.
Well, it sounds like it's popping up again.
Oh, of course it is, because he has to offset how much it cost him to buy the platform.
Yeah.
After being basically strong-armed to do it. You know he's got buyer's remorse.
Oh, yeah. He had buyer's remorse before he bought it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, I had this thought earlier where I was like, I can't tell which gender expectation is worse. The gender expectation of women have to play dumb, or men have to pretend that they know everything. I can't tell which expectation is worse. Because, off topic, this is just something that I was talking about with my mom, because there's a number of things that I'm going to have to start negotiating offline. And also I started working in an office, and one of her pro tips was, if you ever have to call and double check about something, just play dumb. And I'm like, wow, that really says something about gender expectations.
Yeah. Now, see, my first thought with that is the Louise Penny model, where have you read any of her books?
I have not.
She does a mystery series called The Three Pines Mysteries.
Okay.
Like, it's fun. The lead detective, Inspector Gamache, his superpower is empathy. It's the thing that makes him fun, is that everything he does is based on figuring out emotion and understanding where these things come from. And he has this great quote where there are 4 phrases that lead to wisdom. They are, I don't know, I was wrong, I'm sorry, I need help.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, so much of his stuff is about going against toxic masculinity or toxic femininity or any of that.
Oh, bless. That's some good stuff right there.
Yeah. But I love that those 4. I've been thinking about doing like an art piece and just putting it up, because they're good. It's really good advice. Being able to admit you don't know everything is really helpful.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, absolutely it is. There is a fine line, though.
Yeah.
But that's a discussion for another day.
True. Getting back to social media.
Yeah, getting back to social media. Also, although this could also tie into social media, because one of the like big bits of advice on social media was like really in its heyday was, hey, if you want to make your presence really wide known and accumulate followers, you have to pin yourself as an expert in a particular topic or field, even if you don't feel like that. And talk about putting on airs. Yeah.
Well, to be fair, that's also basically the strategy for fighting imposter syndrome, which is not a bad thing.
Again, fine line.
Fine line. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say one of the things specifically with social media, and this is a little bit off topic, but I'm curious what your experience is with it.
Okay.
I have very rarely found that social media has actually made me any money.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not talking even direct, buying advertising or something like that, which, by the way, I've done it. It's never worked.
Oh, yeah. I tried that back when I had Facebook, before I left Facebook back in 2018 or something like that. I tried once or twice buying advertisements, did not work.
Yeah, that same. But one of the things that I've also come to realize, like, I've used it to promote projects and things like that, and I've made some cash doing that kind of thing every once in a while. For the most part, anything that gets posted on social media is giving stuff away free that no one wants to buy.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm wondering if that's a fairly universal feeling with this stuff at this point.
I would say yes. And I say yes because the few times that I log into Instagram anymore, I usually only log into Instagram to update the Instagram account for validation, because CB and I have been reposting validation comic strips for the Instagram format since the website got taken down. But anytime that I log in there, I notice it less when I log in on my desktop, because my desktop has an ad blocker. But if I look on my phone, the ads that I see are often get this free download, get this free guide to such and such thing, get this free download, get this free thing. And they do that, I feel like, because businesses know that people are on social media to look for free or discounted things. This is actually something in this same vein. I was listening to a podcast about like how to grow a business online or how to run a business online. Mm-hmm. And this was a point that like I suspected, but then the host put words to it and I went, oh, I'm not sure I like that.
Yeah.
And this idea is when people are shopping online, they're not shopping for goods. They are buying an idea. They're not buying physical things. They are buying the idea of a thing. So when, say, for example, they're shopping on Shein, like they're not shopping for the cheapest shirt possible. They are shopping for what they think they will feel like when they put that shirt on.
You know, it's funny because I did just recently buy this Critical Role shirt I'm wearing.
Yeah, and you bought it because you really like and support the idea of Critical Role.
Yes, and it was specifically a shirt design I looked at and was like, I would wear this. I will wear this at cons and people will spot it.
Yep. Susu, I see that you're making comments about AI art, and that's unfortunately one of the things that is becoming popular on social media. And unfortunately, I feel like AI art was the inevitable conclusion for artists being encouraged for like 10 plus years to post their art for free on social media, because they were encouraged for years to post their art for free on social media. Now there are programmers who have programmed bots to comb through all of those millions of posts and then Frankenstein something together.
Yeah. I will confess that I am one of the few people I know who is not that worried about AI art.
I'm surprised about that.
Well, no, the thing is, I don't think, even if AI were able to create fully formed cogent art, which it's still a struggle. It's very rare to see it.
Especially with hands.
Yeah. But I still think that even if they were doing that, even if they were creating full comics, telling stories and doing all of that, I don't feel like that replaces us, because I think a lot of what gets sold is not just the art itself, it's the artist.
Yeah.
Like there's always a place for our personalities and the way that we like to handle work specifically, that you're not going to have AIs replacing. Now, are we potentially going to have situations where AIs start doing a lot of the work on regular illustration? That might end up happening. But I also kind of feel like a lot of the arguments we're hearing about this are similar to some of the arguments we heard when digital art started becoming a thing. And that's just become another tool in our arsenal. So that's what I'm hoping will happen.
We'll see. I'm more interested in AI art from a scholarly angle, and I'm going to clarify this point because there's been stories that I've heard. This is largely from hearsay, so I don't entirely know the validity of this, but there has been instances where an AI art generator has actually helped to identify lost pieces of art by artists from the past and been able to actually identify who the artist is, which I'm interested in that angle as somebody who's interested in art preservation, especially online, because like, you want to talk about like an archivist nightmare, just bring up the internet.
You know what occurs to me would be interesting with that specific type of thing. So there's this concept, usually in modern times, it's associated with Thomas Kincaid of having the art factory, where you actually have a whole studio, a whole stable of artists that are creating the same illustration over and over again and things like that.
Oh, you mean like the James Patterson method?
Yeah. But the thing is, I remember I went to an exhibit talking about Rodin. That's how he worked. He would make a basic design, then he have an entire studio making copies of these statues based on his design. And it occurs to me it'd be really interesting if you had an AI go over all the classic Rodins and figure out like which of these were all made by the same artist that was not Rodin. Like how many of these are direct copies of him?
Yeah,
and
that is interesting. Just a little bit of a tangent though. I feel like it might be a little bit easier for Rodin to do that sort of thing because sculpting is not entirely the same thing as painting.
Oh yeah, like, and also have almost no experience with sculpture, so I don't know how necessarily different it would be. But I don't know. I do think long term AI is probably going to help us more than it's going to hurt us. I don't see it replacing art jobs en masse.
I see it becoming more of a tool in the hands that know that it is a tool. What concerns me are the people who look at AI and AI art generators as an alternative to actually hiring an artist.
Yes, that sucks when that happens.
That sucks.
It makes me wonder if, because something I've kind of wanted to see happen for a while, and I know there are a couple organizations that do this. And I don't know anyone who belongs to any of these organizations, but I keep thinking about changing it. I feel like this is a situation where a guild would be very helpful.
Absolutely.
I think the graphic artist guild, I know, does some stuff. I've been meaning to check them out more, actually, potentially sign up with them, because there's so much unfairness with what we do, and that would actually be a great place to say we're all collectively bargaining, and AI needs to have some limits on it.
Yeah, sorry, I just had this thought, and this is a hot take, granted, and this thought needs to percolate a little bit more. But I do see a connection between the rise of technology and the rise of people needing to unionize.
Yeah.
I just think that's interesting, but that's a hot take. You need to do a little bit more research on it, but I do find it interesting that after 10 years of artists being encouraged to post their art for free on social media, now there are people making programs to take all of that art and then Frankenstein it into something else. And, posting stuff online is not permission to take that stuff from the artists.
That's why anything you post online needs to have your copyright information. You need to sign it multiple places, watermark it. There's so many protections you need to be putting on your stuff. It's funny also, your stuff is going to get out there in really weird ways you aren't even thinking about.
That is true.
One of the things I always liked about Patreon is when my comics go up on Patreon, there's a level of protection there, because Patreon, you cannot easily copy or download the images if you're not the person who actually is running the Patreon. There's some restrictions on that. And then I realized I was talking to my mom, who's one of my patrons, because she said that she shown one of my comics to my aunts and they thought it was hilarious. And I stopped and thought about it. I was like, I haven't released it to the general public yet. How did they see it? And she's like, I just forwarded the email.
Yep.
I didn't even think about the fact that my stuff, like, I had it in my head, I had this level of protection that I didn't have. And I've been doing Patreon for a long time, and it didn't actually click with me that this was going on. So, it's so tricky figuring some of this stuff out.
I have a lot of thoughts about Patreon. Not all of them are positive. There's a reason why I built my own Patreon alternative. Yeah, and that's a discussion for another day. I might actually do a vlog about that.
I don't blame you on that at all. I have come to the conclusion, though, that there's no such thing as a platform that we will not find a way to complain about.
Oh, no, absolutely not. Like Folding Ideas did an entire video about Vimeo, which was a YouTube alternative. And that video...
Still around. It's wild. No one uses it.
Yep. My about video on my website is actually hosted on Vimeo. It still works.
Vimeo has a lot of native stuff built into Patreon. Like you can actually do a lot more streaming stuff with Vimeo on Patreon than you can through YouTube. They've increased their YouTube content because YouTube's just everywhere and they needed to. But for a long time, Vimeo was almost the exclusive Patreon streamer.
Yeah.
That honestly, I think that's one of the biggest problems social media has right now, is that all of it is moving more and more towards monopolies.
Yeah. It's a good chunk of it. It's because I don't remember where this particular point got brought up, but somebody did bring up the point of how in early internet days, everybody was able to build their own websites, but then came the idea of adding more programming languages. I think it was Dan Olson when he was talking about just the presence of crypto.
Yeah.
And the inevitable rise of crypto just came out of the idea that initially the internet started as a free to use place where you could build your own websites. Then as websites got more complicated, not necessarily on purpose, but sometimes on purpose, as more programming languages got incorporated into it, the higher the barrier became to get into it. So whenever new platforms came out, like MySpace or Facebook or Tumblr, with these like pre-built templates of like, hey, you can make your page on our website look like this, or look like this, or look like this. Like that was the inevitable consequence of pages becoming more complicated. And now we've gotten to a point where basically all of these websites have like basically, what's the word I'm looking for? Consolidated into one place and become like one-stop shops for everything.
Yeah.
Like Facebook is trying really, really hard to be the everything app.
It's absolutely true.
It's just not working.
It's funny you put it this way. I never had a MySpace. I remember hating MySpace when I first saw it, mainly because it had this one awful feature where as soon as you went on the site, it would start playing music really loudly.
It would just automatically play like the song that the particular person who had that page was like, this is my favorite jam now.
Which is what people weren't thinking about at the time, is trying to sneak on the internet, which as kids we were absolutely trying to do. And that song was like a narc. But the thing is, I got into college and there was this new thing people were joining called the Facebook. It had the in it, by the way.
Yeah. When it first started, it was called the Facebook.
It was limited to specific colleges only. Our college had just gotten it. And it had such a beautiful streamlined interface. It was simple. It was easy to make something that actually looked pretty good. There wasn't a lot going for it. And now it is, in my opinion, one of the ugliest social media platforms. It is such a mess. I can never find anything on it. It's got too many options. It's got too many different things that can happen.
And it spits out so many advertisements before you can even get to the stuff that you want to get to.
I'll be honest. I tune out ads. I don't use ad blockers. I just am able to ignore them for the most part, unless it's the only ones I can't ignore as easily are video tied ads, because they literally stop the video to show you the ad. But everything else, so there was a video I remember watching a while back from Linkara, who is an old school comics streamer. He was part of the channel Awesome Guys, actually.
Yeah, and then he broke off and did his own thing, which bless him.
Yeah, absolutely. But he actually did an entire video talking about why you shouldn't use ad blocker, and I haven't used ad blocker since, because I realized I agreed with him. But
yeah, I understand.
I also respect anyone who uses ad blocker. Like,
yeah, I was about to say I understand the arguments in favor of not using ad blockers. I understand that online creators have to make their money somehow, and that's usually through advertisements. At the same time, I don't want another advertisement from PragerU, god damn it.
Yeah. Also, like, ads are the worst around election seasons. Like, it's so bad. And it drives me crazy because I've specifically gone into, most of it comes through Google. And I specifically gone into Google and say, I do not want this type of ad, this type of ad, this type of ad, this type of ad. They do not care in election season. Nope. Like, you are white in your 30s in America, and we're going to show you every possible conservative ad. And it pisses me off. Because, like, I'm looking at it as like, these are not people I'm going to vote for. Stop it. And here's the thing. Sometimes I also get the ads for people that I do plan on voting for. And I'm like, guys, stop. I asked not to get these ads.
Yeah.
And I refuse to pay YouTube to take away those ads, because I will not be bullied into it, because I know that's why they're doing it.
Yeah. Susu brought up in the chat that sometimes people quote unquote need to pay the app in order to block ads. I will make a full confession. I do pay for a YouTube premium subscription because again, fuck PragerU. I don't want their ads.
Absolutely. No, I again, this is my personal limit. But I've definitely, like, me not buying it as pure stubbornness and orneriness. Like, I have a little bit of New England blood in me, and that's just enough that I will fight the power in the most passive aggressive way I possibly can.
Yeah. I mostly brought up YouTube Premium because I use it because YouTube Premium pays a little bit more than just ad rolls does whenever you watch particular channels. Because like YouTube's algorithm is able to detect whether that user who's watching the video has a YouTube Premium account or not. And if they have a YouTube Premium account, it gives that particular creator a little bit more of a kickback. So
that is the best reason for YouTube Premium I've heard. I might actually consider it now because no ads, and it's actually better for the people who I'm watching. Okay, I can get behind that.
Yeah, that's a good chunk of why I do it. Also, you get a lot of extra things for getting onto YouTube Premium. Like you get certain movies for free, which is nice.
Yeah. That's man, streaming services are an entire other problem.
Yeah, but those are platforms, not necessarily social media.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but you know, streaming platforms exist so that people have something to talk about on social media.
True, and so social media has an excuse to like clip stuff and show little bits of it.
Yeah, but there is that idea that like social media is supposed to be free advertising for things, which it's true and it's not true. Again, like I've never known ads to work on social media. The interesting though, so I'm part of a comics anthology, which is on BackerKit now. You can find out more about it at fantasyvilleproductions.com. Links should be in the YouTube description. At the very least, go to my website. I'll put that up on the screen. Oh, there it is, fantasyvilleproductions.com. The comics anthology that is out on BackerKit now is from Iron Circus Comics. It's called Failure to Launch. I know, I'm so excited. Like I've wanted to do something with Iron Circus for years and it's finally happened. So one of the behind the scenes things, and I'm going to give you a little peek behind the curtain. They gave us a little run of show to give us like, hey, we're part of the promo. We're part of the promo team. Here are some things to keep in mind when you are sharing your thing. Here is, bless you, here is a referral link that is specific to you. Please use this link so that we can track where pledges are coming from and things like that. And the interesting thing to me was this run of show brought up that the best platform that brought in pledges was Twitter. I've never known that to be the case. So I'm surprised that they said this.
I will admit, when I've done stuff on Kickstarter, I get surprising amounts of traffic from Facebook.
Yeah.
Like, and it makes no sense because I have very little Facebook presence. But
well, I imagine it's a little bit more beneficial for Facebook because of like a friend of friends situation going on. And also on Facebook, especially if whether you're active on there or not, your family is on there.
Yeah.
And if your family sees that you have a new project out, they're like, oh, well, they're family. I have to support them. Click.
Yeah, that definitely happens a lot. By the way, I find it hilarious that Facebook has become the social media platform for the exact generation that it was originally excluding.
Yeah.
Like that's always funny to me because when Facebook started out, you had to have a college email account, which almost no one in our parents' generation had. My mom actually specifically got one when Vassar, like she got an alumni email address specifically so she could join Facebook once that happened. And I remember when Facebook announced they're going to be opening it up, I had so many friends who were like, this sucks. I don't want my parents seeing what I'm posting on here. And it's great because in retrospect, they absolutely should have been caring about what they were posting on there.
Yeah.
More. I cared, and I still posted stuff I probably shouldn't have.
Yeah. We've all been there.
Yeah. Like, one of the other things that's scary about social media is something you post is there forever, and you are not the same person you were necessarily back then.
Yeah. Although you say that, but at the same time, it's like, again, bringing up the internet archiving preservation issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. If a social media website actually does collapse,
Mm-hmm.
there are no backups. Unless people actually do their due diligence, it is likely gone forever. Like, just thinking about Lady Emily brought up in her video about the Cinemassacre drama that's been going on. There was apparently a live stream that one of the guys connected to Cinemassacre did that is now considered lost media because it was deleted and never archived.
Is that the whole? Was there other drama happening with Cinemassacre? I haven't heard this.
So don't worry about it. It's mostly behind the scenes stuff. Nothing to do with James Rolfe himself.
Okay.
No, James Rolfe is fine. It's the people in his orbit that people are taking issue with, but he's starting to distance himself away from them, which good.
I see we have a question in chat also about Pinterest, which
Pinterest is not a social media.
I also don't. I find Pinterest frustrating because whenever I need reference art, it's blocked because I don't have a Pinterest account.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Pinterest is a resource website. It is not a social media.
Yeah.
And that's something that I actually learned that distinction when I took a class on Skillshare, not a sponsor. Thank goodness. I wouldn't want to take a sponsorship from Skillshare anyway. I was actually really disappointed with my membership when I had it. But
that's good to know because I considered checking out Skillshare, but
a lot of their classes are hit and miss. Like, it's the pro is that anybody can post a class on there. The con is anyone can post a class on there.
Yeah. One thing that I find that kind of neatly ties into, though, is the idea of sponsorships.
Yeah.
Which is one of the more interesting things that social media has started to turn towards, especially since ads are starting to get blocked by a lot more people.
Yeah. But the thing is, sponsorships work a little less on TikTok because they are clearly marked whether that video is sponsored or not. And it's really easy to skip over that particular TikTok video if you see the word sponsored anywhere there.
Wait, I don't use TikTok, full disclosure. But one of the things, that's only like minute-long videos, right?
They started off as minute-long videos. They have since extended the video length. They started as 1 minute, and then it became 3 minutes. And I don't know if this is true or not. They were talking about this for a little while, extending it to 10 minutes.
Like, I'm one of those guys who thinks that Twitter should have stuck with 140 characters. Because that's actually my favorite thing about Twitter is that you're limited in your character space. And people who post like 8 post Twitter chains don't get Twitter. Like,
you mean Twitter threads?
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Like, one other thing I should bring up, I am also a post and ghoster when it comes to social media. I post stuff. I almost never check social media. There's one exception. There's one social media platform I regularly use, and a lot of people argue it's not a social media platform.
Is it Reddit?
It's Reddit.
Yeah. It's Reddit also toes that line between social media and platform to me, where it's like it's not quite Pinterest in that it's not really like a resource sharing site, but there are elements of resource sharing there. To me, it's more like a modern day forum.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. It's funny because one of the things I like about Reddit is it feels like what social media was supposed to be, if that makes sense. There's a lot less of algorithms controlling what you get to see. You get to choose what you get to see. If you're in a group and you realize the people in this group suck, you leave the group. If there's no other group that fits the exact niche that group's supposed to be about, you can make one. Like they have a lot of moderation tools. They have one thing. This is actually a point I think we've talked about and disagree on. But I really like that Reddit is one of the last social media platforms that still has downvoting.
There's a plus and a minus to that.
Yeah. It's an upvote and a downvote. But
yeah, but there's also like it can also be a tool that can be used to like how do I phrase this?
Online bullying of marginalized groups.
There's that issue.
Yeah.
And there's also the issue of what if you're trying to put a criticism or a critique out there and people don't jive with it? Like, not just devil's advocate, but just being there and being like, hey, that doesn't necessarily work for this reason. And people taking issue with that.
Yeah. And that is absolutely going to happen. My bigger problem is that if people only see when someone upvotes what you're saying, they're going to assume that they have a consensus. Like the classic example is always to go for one of the bigger conspiracy things online. I'm going to go with one that's relatively tame. The birds aren't real subreddit. Let's go with that because that's mostly a joke. But if let's say someone very seriously posts birds aren't real, and you have 1,000 people downvote it and 3 people upvote it. And they see that might make the person go, maybe I need to reevaluate this because a lot of people are disagreeing with me. But you look at Facebook and you look at Twitter and you look at Instagram where they've only set up a system for liking things. And all of a sudden you've got 3 likes and you don't see any downvotes. You think 3 people agree with me. My opinion's validated. And I feel like that's a big place where I've gotten stuff that's gotten downvoted to hell, and it's made me rethink my position. And sometimes I'm like, I disagree with this group, or I've been like, maybe I'm in the wrong here and I need to consider this. And it's changed my mind sometimes. And it is a double-edged sword, but I also think it's kind of an important double-edged sword.
Here's what I have to say about likes and upvotes and downvotes and things like that. It is really easy, regardless of the tools that you have, to have a social media platform become an echo chamber where all you hear is the stuff that you agree with or that agrees with you. And I would argue that's how QAnon happened. Yeah,
exactly. Like I'm paranoid about bringing up anything specific, but another example that I always think of with this is people who support flat earth theory. And like actually Neil deGrasse Tyson specifically brought this up, is that one of the interesting things about the internet is it used to be that if you had a theory that had basically no support, the theory usually got dropped, but now you can find someone else who agrees with you much more easily, and that reinforces the theory for you. And I feel like that's like social media used to have ways of checking that by just giving you an idea of how many people disagreed with you versus how many people agreed with you. It's the same argument with how the global warming argument has been portrayed in the media, where they always are doing a point and counterpoint. So it seems like it's a 50-50 argument when it's not.
It really isn't.
Like
the reason social media platforms are built to encourage those echo chambers, though, is because the social media platforms are built for the company who runs that social media platform to keep your attention and to keep those advertisements playing in front of your eyeballs, because that's all those social media platforms want is your attention, because that brings in the money.
Yeah. And it's a problem.
And they will do this by encouraging people to take increasingly more extreme stances on things.
Yeah. It is one of the big things that every time I've seen the downvote button removed, I've been like, this is making the conversation much more of an echo chamber.
Yeah, which is part of the reason I don't do TikTok very much, because TikTok has no downvote system. It is only likes. It's also really, really easy to go into extreme polar ends of things on TikTok.
I think the big thing that stopped me from checking TikTok out more, because the funny thing is, I actually kind of like the format. I like the.
Oh yeah, there's a reason why YouTube and Instagram and other platforms are copying the TikTok format.
I hate it on Instagram, but I'm watching it all the time on YouTube now. I like the YouTube.
It's because YouTube is built for videos.
Exactly. Yeah. But one of the things that honestly stops me from doing TikTok is the privacy issues tied into it.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. If the US government is banning it on their devices, that is terrifying.
It's a concern.
That's the one I go, oh, like, you guys can go on Facebook on your devices. You're worried about, this is the one that has you scared?
Well, the thing is, there are lobbyists for Facebook who have gone to Washington and have just encouraged them to look the other way, while certain research groups go through the data of hundreds of millions of users on Facebook for their own political gains.
Yeah.
This is not hyperbole. This is not an exaggeration. This actually happened in 2016, which was why I left the platform.
Yeah.
I don't remember what research group it was that did this, but there was a research group that actually went into Facebook and used millions of people's account information to basically make certain political arguments and polarize things further.
Yeah. Like, one of the things that's this has been changed, I believe, because it caused such an uproar. I know a lot of artists who still won't post art on Facebook because for a while their provisions actually said anything posted on Facebook they own.
Yep. Which was why I stopped posting art on Facebook. There was a provision that said stuff that you post on Facebook is property of Facebook. Yeah. And I did not like that.
I need to step away for just a minute.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah. Shill stuff. I'm done.
Yeah, no, I can keep everything entertained while you have to step away for a second. If you are liking this conversation, be sure to give us both follows on social media, or on, I say social media, but realistically, I have other outlets to get out there, and we'll talk about those later. But, excuse me, wow, the tea. Anyway, wow, I'm just gonna, okay, I'm gonna take a sip of tea for a second. Okay. Check out Ben's stuff, bwhcomics.com. Link in the YouTube doobly-doo. I will put his link up on the screen as well. Boom. There you go. Ben does a webcomic called Cost Pain, or as he likes to call it, a weeb comic, because it's about cosplayers going to conventions. There's also other little storylines involved as well. It is largely about just convention life. There's also, on occasion, comic strips about the struggle of being an artist in Artist Alley. Love that. He's also done other comics as well. All of those will be at bwhcomics.com. I did mention a comics anthology that is out now. You can find out more information about that at fantasyvilleproductions.com. Moving forward, any and all crowdfunding campaign news that I have, including currently running crowdfunding campaigns, will be listed and announced at fantasyvilleproductions.com. The link will also be in the YouTube doobly-doo. If you are watching this stream on Twitch or Twitter, this will be available as a replay on my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is at youtube.com at Kelsey D. That's KELCID. There's also a link at kelseydcrawford.com. I also have a webcomic of my own. It is called The Legend of Jamie Roberts. It is about a genderqueer pirate and their two best friends treasure hunting in a land full of dragons. We just started chapter 8. So if you have not read the comic yet, this is still a reasonably good time to catch up on the story. There's archives and everything. thelegendofjamieroberts.com. Check that out. All right, cool. I was just signal boosting our stuff.
Nice.
Yeah.
By the way, I heard the brief mention of anthologies, just to show we have a test copy of the hardcover of What the Gnomes Know.
I still love how that cover came out. And not just because I drew it.
Beautiful.
Yes, look at that cover. Oh my God.
But we will, we're hoping to place the full order soon. We had to do a couple more test prints to fix a few issues we found. once that happens and we've fulfilled the Kickstarter submissions and things like that, we will be opening that up to the general public in case you did miss it.
Sweet.
Cool stuff.
Yeah.
One thing I did also kind of want to transition to a little bit. We talked a lot about the problems of social media.
Yes.
But we've also said we are going to talk about other resources that can be used and things like that.
Yeah, as like alternatives to social media to like reach out to an audience or grow an audience, particularly if you're an independent creator like the two of us.
Yeah, there's the one big one that I wanted to bring up, and I feel like since we were talking about echo chambers and things like that, this is a platform that has, in theory, a big problem with it, but I still think is a better use than a lot of social media is Discord.
Yeah.
I'm worried about the fact that you basically only join, very much like with Reddit, you're specifically joining groups that are in their own way their echo chamber, but you're picking the echo chamber. But at the same time, I kind of think Discord might be what ends up usurping social media in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah. And the thing too is that you're concerned that it could be an echo chamber, but the thing is there are emojis and keys in Discord to encourage upvotes and downvotes.
Yes, there are ways to. One of the things that blew my mind. We're both part of the Columbus Cartoon Coalition, which is mostly active with an artist Discord. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I thought was so cool is they use emojis to vote for stuff.
Yep.
Which
I started incorporating that into my own Discord.
It's a good idea. I love that. But it's also like one of the main reasons people use social media for creators to promote their stuff is because it gives fans and anyone who consumes the stuff the ability to communicate directly with those people. Mm-hmm. Discord's a way better way to do that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like there was an artist on YouTube who she was like, I'm leaving Patreon. And she basically did this 15-minute video talking about why she didn't like Patreon and why she is switching to Discord instead. Because Discord has the ability to have Patreon-like structures where if you pledge certain amounts each month, you get particular rewards and particular roles in specific Discord servers and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I would not do this, for the record. I have it set so that the Discord server that I run is already limited to people who subscribe through my independently run page, which is subscribe. Yeah. Like anybody who joins that just gets in my Discord server, and I do it that way. And I don't really have like specific roles or anything because the audience is still kind of small at this point.
Yeah.
If it gets any bigger, I will consider it. But I'm not going to be monetizing Discord in that regard.
Yeah.
The option is there.
I'm not monetizing my Discord, but it is something where if I've got people who are genuinely interested in some of the stuff I talk about, it's a very good way to get them active. And a lot of them aren't either aren't patrons or weren't patrons when they started and eventually became patrons. Because honestly, the main reason I still use Patreon is it really helps me keep to a schedule more than anything. That's what helps me. But I think Discord has done more for getting me new people than anything else.
That is true. Just being parts of other Discord servers has really helped grow my reader base.
Yeah, absolutely. It is also tricky though. This is actually the same problem I have with Reddit. I don't use Reddit for work anymore. I used to like post my comics there regularly and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And one of the things I realized is like, especially if you go to say I for a while was on the Kickstarter subreddit, which is a place where people often post Kickstarter projects that they've got going. And I realized the only people who are actually in this were people who post Kickstarters, not the people who consume them.
Yeah, where it's just a thread to be like, I have this project running on Kickstarter.
Yeah, like I mentioned the Columbus Cartoon Coalition. I do share when I'm doing stuff, and sometimes I get hits off that. The majority of people who are there are not the target demographic I'm going for. So that's one of the things that I have to kind of figure out.
Well, here's a lesson from how Facebook has shifted. Sometimes your intended target demographic and who you have in mind as your target demographic does shift.
Yes.
Probably Facebook's target demographic shifted because they realized that college students are broke.
Yeah.
The people with the money are, at this point in time, as of 2023, the boomers. So that is why Facebook has shifted their target demographic to almost exclusively boomers, because they're the people with the money.
Yeah. Also, like, that entire generation started using Facebook to follow what their kids were doing.
Yep.
And then when their kids moved on, they're like, well, we're not learning another platform. That's ridiculous. Which I can't blame them for. I like, what's the new one that's come out? Mastodon, that a lot of people went to after Twitter started. Twitter.
Yeah, when Twitter was falling apart, a lot of people were like, I'm going to give Mastodon a try. But part of the reason they were doing that is because apparently there are elements of Mastodon that are very adjacent to Twitter. I have not tried Mastodon.
Yeah.
And full disclosure, have not tried it.
But I had that immediate reaction of not another platform. Like,
yeah, it's because, and this is something that I had in my notes, social media, when it first came into the scene, advertised itself as this fun thing. It is not fun anymore.
Yeah.
Again, going back to the shitification of platforms, it is not fun anymore. It's just shit.
It's also like one of the things that drives me crazy about social media in general. Like, this is part of the echo chamber effect, but it's also a place where a lot of people start posting stuff they absolutely should not be sharing with the public. Like, there was
that was true of the early days of the internet as well, but
but now it's a lot easier to see that stuff. Like,
I
had an Angel Fire site in middle school.
I was about to say, I saw a lot of stuff when I was in middle school that I really shouldn't have, and that was before social media became a thing.
There is a degree to which a lot of this stuff is, like, it's much more visible in a lot of ways when it's on social media. Like, there are things that are, like, I've had people who, like, I agree with generally politically and stuff like that, and I'll sometimes see them make posts and I'm like, I support a lot of what you're saying, but you've written it like hate speech and this is going to be a problem. Like, and like, so many people get that reinforced, and it just makes the whole situation significantly uglier. I'm always paranoid about what I put online because I have a unique name. I can't say another Benjamin Wright-Heuman. There isn't another Benjamin Wright-Heuman.
Yeah. It's interesting that you bring that up as somebody who had their original Instagram account hacked and had to make a new one.
It's why every time I make posts that involve you, I'm changing, and I'm doing it on multiple platforms. I have to keep changing the user ID.
Yep. That's the other thing about when you were bringing up posting and ghosting on social media. I remember some of the hot tips about promoting your work on social media when it was in its heyday was you can't post the same thing across all social media platforms. So what you post on Facebook cannot be the same thing that you post on Instagram or on Tumblr or on Twitter, because the formats are so different. And also, each social media has its own weird lingo and cultural expectations. Like, when you go on Twitter, you are expected to have hot takes that you do not have a basis or actual research to back up your claims. You just go on there to post your hot take and then walk away. Like, that is why Twitter exists.
Yeah. And honestly, like, in some ways that makes it one of the more fun platforms. But again, that it worked better when it was extra pithy, when you could say a lot less with it and it could be read as just a spur of the moment thing to say.
It was an easy breeding ground for Russian agents to go in and be like, there's a lot of American users on here. You know what's a really good way to further drive a wedge into things?
Yeah. No, I think that's just going to be a problem with the internet forever. But
yeah, realistically, there's always going to be like international bad actors who are going to look at certain political spheres, particularly in the United States, because the United States is still kind of the cultural tastemaker at the moment.
Yeah.
And being like, at it. And look at us contributing to the conversation by talking about the fall of social media platforms and what creators can do instead.
But yeah, like I've moved so much of my stuff over to Discord. I'm more likely to have conversations with my followers on Discord than I am to try to do that on anything else. I can set up separate channels that people can customize to look at for whatever they want. Got some for my webcomic. I've got some for when I'm doing game streams, which I do every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/BWHcomics. But with, and it just, like, I made a Critical Role channel, which is flagged with tons of spoilers as Legend of Vox Machina stuff comes out. So I can nerd out with my friends who are watching it for the first time or who know what's coming and are like, yes! And that's great. And it doesn't have to be shared with the entire world.
Yeah.
And that still has a great deal of effectiveness for me.
Yeah, honestly, Discord has been a great tool for fandoms to get together. Like Chloe, a friend of ours, is on so many different Promare Discords. It's like, yeah. Like, I love Promare. I really do. I'm not sure that I love it enough to want to join multiple Discords about it.
Yeah.
But there are multiple Discords that exist.
Yeah, it's funny because I still get burned out on Discord with a lot of the groups I follow.
Yeah.
But that's like, it's still one of the most accessible and most fun places for a lot of the stuff. I've got I have 2 groups that do D&D or gaming stuff. I've got my own. And it's also interesting because I don't know, like they really set it up so you can control and moderate your own channels extremely well, which
honestly
is always a nice thing to have.
Yeah, honestly, like I feel like that has been a problem with social media is the lack of moderation.
Yeah. Again, one of the things I like about Reddit, it actually has moderation on it can have moderation, I should say.
It can. Sometimes it does not.
Sometimes it does not. But any subreddit you're on, in theory, has mods.
Yeah.
Like, as long as it's big enough, it has someone moderate. Even if it's not big enough, I actually created a subreddit a while back, and I am the only mod on it. And nothing's happening with it because I'm a terrible mod. But it is one of those things that, like, it gave me all the tools to do what I need to do with it. I just couldn't get anyone interested in it.
Yeah. And, you're going to have that problem whether you're on Discord or you're on Reddit.
Yeah. But it's the fact being able to control this stuff is is important for creators who are trying to share their stuff. And it's definitely one of the things that social media does not do well.
No, absolutely not.
One of the funny examples, because this is one of the other things that bothers me about, especially Twitter. Like, Twitter was designed for this exact type of thing to be able to happen. I have a very good friend of mine who managed to get blocked by a celebrity.
Oh dear.
Well, because the celebrity posted that they were, going to be at a con or running a panel that was involved with, and it was I think the post actually mentioned it was like involved the charity they were helping. And this person, this again, friend of mine actually posted, I will not be attending. I saw one of your panels where you were clearly hungover at a previous thing. And
oh dear.
Yeah. And the thing is, the celebrity clapped back and then eventually blocked him. And it was like that friend came to the rest of our friends and was like, man, can you believe this happened? And we were like, you were the asshole here. Like, first off, what you said was, pretty unpleasant. And while they didn't, that celebrity did not necessarily respond great, they probably get 1,000 of these a day.
Yeah.
Like, that's one of the things about a lot of this, that it's really changed how celebrity works.
Oh,
Made it so that everyone feels like they get to have an opinion about you.
It's that. And there's also the element of people feel entitled to have your personal information, and they feel like they can share that personal information at will because you are a public person.
Yeah.
Which is why doxing is such a thing.
Yeah. I was about to say, like, we're getting into doxing here.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, if you even consider doxing somebody, don't. It's terrible.
Yeah, that you are a bad human being or chatbot.
Yeah, there was an interesting example. I'm not going to name the subreddit, but this was a thing that happened on Reddit where someone posted a picture of an application from somebody. And they blocked out the person's name, but they included their work history. And this was for like they basically revealed on the application something very personal. And the person was saying, I can't believe someone put this on there. And I said, you might want to block out the work history, like take this down and block out the work history, because someone who put in a little bit of research could figure out who this is.
Yep.
To that person's credit, they did. They actually deleted their post and reposted it with that stuff blacked out. But
yeah, but that original post, somebody would have found that and saved a backup of it.
It is, yeah. It's one of those things that, in some manner, it's probably still out there on the internet somewhere. But yeah, like even accidental doxing, you got to be real careful about this stuff.
Absolutely. And social media, as it exists currently, is built to encourage that kind of thing.
Yes.
Whether it's people being like, there was that social media trend for a little while that was like, hey, I just filled out my ballot for the votes. And they actually held up their ballot to show how they voted, which you really should not do that.
Yeah. Or the things about people excited that they got their first credit card and they post a picture of the front and back of it.
Yeah, which they really should not do.
Yeah. No, don't do that.
Yeah, no, don't do that.
Yeah, it cracks me up when stuff like that happens. I remember there was the first one of those I saw was someone had posted just the front of their card, and like, I got my first credit card, so exciting. And then they had a comment down below that was underneath it that said, the numbers in the back are this. Why do people keep asking me that?
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is where moderators really need to like step in and be like, actually.
Well, actually, yeah.
Well, actually, you really shouldn't be posting that kind of content.
You know, the best reason to have glasses to be able to do that, well, actually,
is to be like,
actually.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, it's I don't know. I am very much looking forward to seeing what we figure out for the next batch of stuff. I hope it's Discord. I like Discord.
I mean, I like it too. It's not the only outlet that I use, though.
Yeah. Well, that's probably a good transition to talk about your newsletters or something like that. Because
yes, because that was where I wanted to get to.
Cool.
Yeah, because I have found myself increasingly transitioning more to just using my email newsletter, and like I've used it for years, and I would use it as like a, hey, here's an email, shoots out every Friday to let you know I got a lot of webcomics going on. Here's what you need to know to catch up on the stories.
Yeah.
Also, here's my next convention appearance, and here are my next other convention appearances. Also, I just released a new thing in my online store. Like, the email newsletter is a really good place for me to do that sort of thing, and I've been running it for years. First started running it back in like, I don't know, 2015, 2016, something like that. Back when I was on MailChimp. Hot tip, do not use MailChimp. It is very poorly designed. Yeah. I know a lot of people encourage new timers to use MailChimp. It's because they don't know any better. Use MailerLite. That's what I use. It's way better designed, and it's also free for the first, like, I don't remember the exact number. It's either 10,000 or 100,000 users. I don't remember which, but it's really good for indie creators.
Yeah. And if your numbers are very low with that stuff, like mine are, I have an email newsletter. I honestly don't use it that much, but I do have a mailing list that is under 100.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I literally just have it set up as a Google contacts list that I just blind copy everything from my email address, send it out. And that also works pretty well.
If you have a small enough list, you can get away with that. Once you get beyond a certain number, though, like if you get 100 or more, you're going to have to start using a servicer like MailerLite.
Yeah. And, once that happens, I'll do it. I'll need to get that name from you because I think that's the first time it's come up. But yeah.
It's because most people talk MailChimp because they're everywhere.
Well, no, I've mostly heard you tell me not to use MailChimp. I didn't know what you'd switch to.
Yeah, no, I use MailerLite. I looked at other email servicers. Like bless you. There was one that was like Moo newsletter or something like that. Don't use it. There's a paywall.
Why couldn't they have called it Moozletter?
I think it's called Newsletter. I haven't looked at it for years. But there was that. There's also Tiny Letter. Don't use that. It's a subsidiary of MailChimp. Yeah. I keep railing against MailChimp because the way that the design of MailChimp is built, I was trying to clean up my email list and try to clean out all the people who were unsubscribed but were saved into the database. And I ended up deleting my entire newsletter base. All the emails who signed up for me, gone. Because MailChimp was just that badly designed.
Yeah. No, I believe it. It's
hate it.
I remember when this happened. It was a mess.
I lost nearly 400 emails because MailChimp is that badly designed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so mad. I was mad. I'm still mad about it. I'm still very salty about it. But I switched over to MailerLite, and most people who were on MailChimp switched over to the MailerLite newsletter. Thank goodness.
What's interesting about it also, though, is using emails as an email newsletter almost feels like a pre-social media thing. But
it is.
I mean? But it's still effective.
It is still effective. The thing is there are people online who are like, email is dead. And I'm like, but is it though? Because over like nearly half of all of my Kickstarter pledges come from my email newsletters.
I don't know that email is dead. I do think it is less relevant than people think it is, just because weirdly, I have so many, like I will send an email to somebody and it never get a response. It is like, for some reason, either DMing or doing stuff through Discord or doing stuff. Like, honestly, the best use of social media a lot of times for me is not posting stuff. It's DMs.
Yeah.
Like, there are a few people I exclusively communicate with through Instagram's DMs and stuff like that, just because that's where they are. I have like 2 friends that use the Google Chat feature. That's interesting, but
it is interesting.
I know, right? I'm like,
I forgot that Google Chat was a thing.
Well, that's what's really funny is they got rid of the old thing, Hangouts, and now there's Google Chat.
Okay. Yeah.
It's annoying because I have like 5 Google accounts. And I have to find which Google account the chat's in.
Oh, geez. Yeah. No, I get the need to use DMs because, like, particularly whenever I'm available for commissions and I have my commission windows open, more often than not, I get Discord DMs about it.
Yeah. Talking about social media alternatives, there's one we kind of brought up earlier, but glossed over a little bit.
Yeah.
One of the most effective ways I've found of reaching out to people that actually spend money on stuff is actually through crowdfunding platforms. Like, it is one of the, like, we've all complained about Kickstarter a lot. Kickstarter is better at discovery than anything else I use.
It's because of how it was built.
Yeah.
It is built so that if you have no audience to start with, you can put a product out there and still get backers.
Yeah.
If you pitch it just the right way and you set your goal to something that you can actually feasibly attain.
Yeah. And it's one of those things that I've never entirely understood why it's the only one that's managed this, because it's basically done exactly what I wanted Facebook, Twitter, Instagram to do. Like, they managed to accomplish the most important thing that businesses use social media for, and that is discovery. I don't understand why Patreon can't do this either, because Patreon's terrible at it.
Patreon is terrible at it.
I cannot be discovered. It's impossible for me to get discovered on Patreon.
Patreon's not built for discovery. It is built as a conversion tool.
There's an idea I had a while back. And this is a little bit weird because, so Tumblr had a big mass exodus a while back.
Yeah, because they banned porn bots.
They banned porn, yeah. And I was thinking about it because a lot of people were really upset about what was happening because a lot of it was feeling like it was targeted at specific groups that had been using Tumblr for a long time.
Yep.
And one of the things that occurred to me is, format-wise with how you scroll through things and things like that, it's not that different from how Patreon looks. If they just fix their discovery and tweak some stuff and, expanded the free offering section, they could very, very easily make themselves the new place for Tumblr with all these people leaving.
Yeah.
The big problem is my stuff is technically flagged as not safe for work. I did that a long time ago because
okay, the way that Tumblr's not safe for work flagging system works is it doesn't work.
No, it doesn't. And it's terrible.
There's a reason they stopped using it.
It still flags me as, did they stop using it altogether?
As far as I know, yes.
Oh, I need to email somebody because I'm still flag. Whenever someone goes to my thing, it says content maybe, is for 18 and up. And I'm like, and here's the thing. I never posted porn or anything like that.
Yeah.
I have humor directed towards adults a lot of time. And I always felt safer doing it that way. My stuff's actually become cleaner as I've been going on. But if you search for me in Patreon, I don't come up because none of the non-safe for work stuff comes up.
Yep.
You have to search for me on Google, at which point I pop up.
Yeah. That's more than likely one of the reasons why an art mutual of ours is looking to transition away from Patreon, because she recently invited me to her Discord server and I'm like, I'm not a patron of yours. And then I saw the post where it's like, I'm considering leaving Patreon, and I'm like, that makes sense.
Yeah. I've actually started opening up my Discord to non-patrons more too, just because I kind of want to get used to the idea, if that makes sense. I'm not doing it massively everywhere, but if people are interested, I'm like, oh yeah, here's my link.
Yeah, I'm considering it. And for that, I actually reached out to a cousin of mine who does Discord moderation for a few other Discords. And she's like, if you want to make your Discord public, consider getting this tool and this tool. I can see about forwarding those tools to you. I don't recall off the top of my head at the moment. But she did share with me. Actually, wait. I think I know one of the tools. It's called Pancake.
I love the names for all this stuff.
I know. I love the name for Discord tools, but one of them is Pancake, and the other one is the mascot's a turtle, and I don't recall what the actual name of it is, but I saw the turtle and I was like, that is so heckin' cute. That turtle one though is definitely geared more towards gaming Discords. Because a lot of it is like, you can level up your status by doing X things or things like that. And I'm like, I don't really want to incorporate that into my Discord, because the people who are on my Discord currently are really chill. They're not really interested in gamifying the system, as it were. So, but if you wanted to make a game out of your Discord server, then maybe consider using that tool, whatever it's called. I don't recall, but I'm considering installing Pancake as a safety protocol before I open up my Discord to everybody.
Gamifying a Discord server.
Yeah. The whole idea of if you post X amount of times, you get this particular token.
That's what you mean. Okay.
Yeah.
I was picturing making an ARG out of your Discord server, which would be the coolest thing ever.
There probably is a way to do that, but no, the particular thing that one moderation tool is used for is hey, if you get X amount of warnings, or if you get X amount of suspensions, then you lose a level. If you report harassment or something like that, you get this particular reward. If you post X number of times in a particular thread, you get this thing, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Which I'm not really interested in that. And a lot of my readers are not interested in that either.
Yeah, that sounds like a pain. It's interesting for me on Discord because I do post there for fun, but it's also a workplace for me.
Well, yeah, because there are like Discord servers where you can like meet up with comics colleagues and talk about conventions and shit.
But like I feel way more free to talk on Discord than I do on any social media. Because I recognize it's a conversation that only specific people are going to see. I don't know. I am still careful with it. I've had friends who've messaged me asking permission to put stuff on my Discord before, just because they're like, this might be controversial. Is this okay if I bring up? I'm like, yeah, just be cool about it. There was just a post on my Discord that was talking about. It was an article about the Hogwarts Legacy game that just came out.
Oh, everyone's been
as soon as I saw that post,
I'm so done.
Yeah, no. But as soon as I saw that post was there, I was like, is this going to be trouble? And it wasn't actually. It was. I haven't read the article yet. It was apparently written by a trans game reviewer.
Okay.
It talked about a lot of issues but also talked about the game, which is part of why the guy posted it. It's like, this is the first like honest critique that was at all negative, that was not strictly about J.K. Rowling.
Yeah.
And it was, I don't know, it led to some interesting discussions. Some people got involved in the conversation that are non-binary or are, not just straight white cis male voices. But but it was one of those things where as soon as I saw that get posted, I'm like, should I say something? What do I do? And I just let it happen.
Yeah, it's because JKR is a polarizing figure, to say the least.
Yes.
Yeah. But that's something that sometimes I get into discussions about that with my roommate, because she's a Potterhead.
Yeah.
And I am very much not only not a Potterhead, but I am a trans person.
Yeah.
So I am very much not the demographic for JKR.
Yeah. And I also get it. I grew up on those books. I loved those books.
I stopped at the end of book 5. It pissed me right the hell off.
Yeah, book 5 is my least favorite of the books. But like growing up, those are the books that got me reading. They really were very formative for me. And the thing is, like, as an adult, I've kind of not been doing, even before all the crazy stuff with J.K. Rowling. Like I burned out on the movies real quick.
Yeah.
I didn't read a lot of the later stuff. I didn't keep up with it, but I also kind of recognized, to a lot of people, this is an important part of their life, and it's really hard, even with the controversy, to let go.
Yeah.
And also, like, this goes back to social media a little bit. I guarantee a big chunk of that controversy is feeding the machine. Like, there is definite serious complaints people have. I also think that the people who make the game are taking advantage of it.
Yeah. When you mentioned burnout, my brain was thinking about how you can just burn yourself out thinking that you have to, because social media is built to do this, you're encouraged to have to get on the platforms multiple times a day. Because again, the platforms are incentivized to want to keep your attention. And, the whole thing to do with the new Harry Potter game that's out right now is great for social media platforms, because it gets people talking, and they don't stop talking.
Yeah.
Because they post a thing, somebody will see the thing, they will react to the thing, and then people will react to that reaction, and it just feeds itself.
Yeah.
And it is exhausting. And no wonder people are burnt out on social media, because people will latch onto these topics and not let go until they say their piece.
Yeah. And it's we're saying this while simultaneously streaming and talking about it. Yep. But it is one of those things that increasingly the conversation about social media burnout is absolutely addictive. It is so hard for us to not be constantly looking at our phones. I stare at screens the majority of my day.
Yeah.
It's just, we are hardwired to do that now.
Yeah. Well, I actually have mitigated this a little bit.
Good.
I've found ways to mitigate this. For one thing, I removed Instagram from my phone. So it's not on my phone anymore. I only go into Instagram by getting on my desktop. Now, there are some functionalities that work best on the phone. Like, I can't watch Instagram Reels. They're just repurposed TikToks.
Yeah.
The only reason that people post those kinds of Reels on Instagram and TikTok at the same time is because Instagram pays more.
Yeah.
And this is something that a comics creator actually admitted to. She's like, I will take my TikToks and I will just repost them on Instagram because Instagram pays me more to post stuff on there.
Yeah. And like, I don't know. Instagram is still one of the more accessible social medias for me. I don't know why, because
it's pictures.
That might be it. Like, people freak out less on Instagram. That's the best way I can describe it. You're much less likely to see a crazy political diatribe when the main focus is the picture and not what the person's saying underneath the picture.
Yeah, nobody reads the captions. They just see the picture.
At the same time, that absolutely sucks if you're trying to advertise something.
Yeah. There's a reason. There are multiple reasons why Instagram ads work/don't work.
Yeah. I will say a couple of the comics I most recently really started following, I discovered on Instagram. Like that, for some reason, that still works pretty well. Big one, shout out to Somewhere in Between, which is a very, very interesting slice of life comic.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember the name, Andre something. But a lot of it deals with serious social issues. Like it's all from the perspective of these middle school kids. But a lot of it is dealing with racism or sexuality or like abuse and just all these very complicated, serious issues. And they handle it really, really well. And I discovered that just randomly because I follow the comics hashtag and it came up. It is there are only a handful of Patreons I follow from people I don't actually know because I'm trying to make money on Patreon. That's
right.
Because I've been reading this comic and I'm just like, I have to give you money.
Yeah. Another reason why I left Patreon, because Patreon doesn't have that Kickstarter element of being able to discover a random ass page. It's not like Patreon is not built to be like, hey, thanks for pledging to this creator. You might also like these other creators. It doesn't do that. But probably by design, because Patreon started as basically a landing page for indie creators who post their stuff on other platforms. And Patreon started as a way to monetize as a landing page, almost like an email newsletter, but you make money off of it.
Just to share it, I'm dropping a link to the thing I was talking about in the private chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is interesting how many webcomics are on Instagram.
Actually, something that's worth bringing up, because I noticed that they also have a link for it there. Another big resource online that I guess is sort of an alternative to social media is Webtoon. Yeah. Everyone I know, when I say Webtoon, makes that face. Like, it's why I have a comic that's perfectly set up to go on Webtoon, and I have not done anything with Webtoon because I've just had too many people make faces about it. But it is also one of the places where if people are looking for webcomics, they can find them.
Yeah. Because Webtoon is for webcomics, like exclusively. That Webtoon, anybody can post a webcomic. The problem is anybody can post a webcomic.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my thoughts on it. I will say I've been reformatting Instagram. I've been reformatting validation pages for both Instagram and Webtoon, both very different formats. And the validation presence on Webtoon has been steadily growing. The problem is that Webtoon incentivizes creators to work themselves to the bone to create constantly. It's kind of the same problem with YouTube. It incentivizes creators to work themselves dry to try to appease the algorithm to keep eyeballs on the platform. This is something that Super Eye Patch Wolf actually talked about in a different video. He was talking about, like, I don't remember the exact title of it, but he basically looks at people who say, I can help you grow your YouTube to millions of followers and you can quit your day job. And he took a look at all of them and he was like, no, just no. But like, I'm not going to get into too much of that because A, it's been a hot minute since I looked at it. B, just watch the video. It's good.
I'll tell you one thing that was interesting to me with just going back to Webtoon.
Yeah.
I went to a convention recently. I won't say which one.
Okay.
And it was a convention that I was surprised at how few cartoonists were actually represented there.
Oh, I know the convention you're talking about. We talked about this.
You now know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I'm not going to say the name either. But
one of the things that threw me, because I found a few people that were selling books, but then I also saw two places that had these big Webtoons banners that weren't selling books. That was bizarre to me because you had a comics presence here that's not selling comics. They're advertising their Webtoon and selling something else.
Yeah.
And
it's because Webtoons are not built for books. They are built to be scrolled on phones.
Yeah. And it's I don't know. It is one of the things you said to me at one point that it's better if you've already got the work done and you want to advertise and not make money using Webtoons, which has made me think I should maybe get CostPaint formatted for that. But
well, with your comic CostPaint, it would be way easier to format it into a Webtoon format because you already format it for Instagram. All you got to do is just make it vertical.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. If you look at it on Patreon or on my website, it is vertical because I do it in 4-coma style. When it shows up on Patreon, it's in individual panel squares because I actually have an InDesign document set up to automatically do that.
Nice.
So I really could just pop it in there and just do a bunch of posts. And the only reason I haven't is because, I don't know, Webtoon skeeves me a little bit, but I do recognize it as an important resource.
I think I get where the skeeziness is coming from because this was something just a few years ago, back when Webtoon was starting to announce their Canvas program, where it's like, hey, if you sign this contract and be exclusive to us, we'll get your comic big out there. And Iron Spike on Twitter, who runs Iron Circus Comics, shout out, took a look at the contract and she's like, oh, this is giving me Tokyo Pop vibes and not in the best way.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what I mean by Tokyo Pop vibes, I mean like the Webtoon contract and Tokyo Pop's contract back when they were still accepting submissions was like, if you publish through us, we own these particular rights to your work. If the company falls under, we retain the rights to your work and you do not get your rights back.
That is pretty bad. Which
is really bad.
By the way, free advice for anyone who's starting to do this kind of stuff. Never feel like you cannot negotiate a contract.
Exactly.
Like, it is so common for the initial contract that someone gives you to be their boilerplate that they're expecting you to negotiate stuff on. It is fine to do that. There was a situation I know where I remember this was I don't want to name any names. I'm trying to figure out how to do this. Someone reached out to a major publisher and pretty much had a deal all the way set up, and they just signed the boilerplate.
Oh.
And what was interesting is after a while they realized, wait, I wanted to retain, I think it was film rights. But I signed them away. I screwed up. And they went hat in hand to this publisher who promptly was like, oh, sure. And they renegotiated everything. Like after they had a signed contract, they had this person in theory dead to rights. They still did it. Like I'll tell you privately who it was because this is all contract stuff. But
okay, yeah, and there's
like
non-disclosure agreements involved and things like that.
Yeah, but this was a big company, and it's as soon as I heard this, I was like, this is a company I would like to work with, because they sounded cool about creator rights in a way that a lot of the companies that say they are, and then
actually aren't.
Yeah,
yeah.
But yeah, like this, it's funny because I would like something like Webtoons to be good because it gives me a little bit of like the old Project Wonderful vibes.
Oh, I miss Project Wonderful. Like,
did Validation use Project Wonderful?
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
We didn't make a whole bunch of money with it, but we did make enough to offset a few costs.
Yeah. This is also one of the reasons that I'm not 100% anti-ad, because back in the day, like, and by back in the day,
well, with things like Project Wonderful, it made sense to not have ad blockers. But also, Project Wonderful was geared for indie creators to advertise their stuff.
It was. For anyone who doesn't know, Project Wonderful was a site specifically for getting banner ads and stuff like that on websites, which, you know, most people hear that and are like, that's awful. Why would you want to do that? But it was basically from about the mid 2000s to the mid 2010s, the way that people found new webcomics.
Yep.
Because we'd all back it. We'd say we want to be on comic sites and things related to these specific interests. It was very easy to make the ads. It was very easy to monetize it. You could pay pennies and have your ads show up in places.
Yep.
And it worked really well. And it shut down because of social media. They basically said nobody's finding stuff through ads anymore. They're only finding their individual lanes on social media, and that's where everything's being discovered. And that sucks because that discovery does not work as well.
Yeah, no, it does not. No, we talked about how social media encourages echo chambers, and that's not a good way to find new stories.
I'll tell you, one of my favorite things with the end of Project Wonderful was they announced, you know, it's going to be a few months and then it's going to completely shut down, and any money you have on here still is gone. You need to withdraw.
Yeah, which I really appreciate that they did that heads up.
Well, what was really cool is I looked at that. I didn't have a lot of money on there because until you got big, you made very little, but it was enough to sort of pay for advertising. And I just looked at it and was like, okay, my new goal is to have no money in here by the time I'm done. So I just increased how much I was doing advertising.
Oh, I just cashed out.
I did. I had barely any. I don't know if I had enough money on there to cash out because there's like a minimum.
Yeah, there was a minimum.
But I basically turned up my advertising for that last little bit, and I also got some numbers because I think other people were doing the same thing. So we're like, one last hurrah. We're gonna support each other one last time.
Yeah, which realistically probably should have done that myself, but I did not do that. Mostly because by that point I had kind of slowly stopped using Project Wonderful. So I was like, I'll just cash out.
I also think, though, Project Wonderful's a good example of sort of the thesis of what we did with all this. Social media absolutely will be replaced someday. And
absolutely.
Like, it used to be that that was the heyday of webcomics, the Project Wonderful years, in a lot of ways, because it was right when webcomics started to be a way that anybody could put their work out there and start to make a living off of it.
Yep.
And then that entire environment 10 years later changed completely and was replaced by social media, and something's going to replace social media after this.
Yep.
And I think it's pretty fair. I think it's pretty likely that social media has genuinely hit its peak because everyone's getting sick of it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think it hit its peak back in 2020, and we're witnessing the downfall of social media. But that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I'm debating if 2020 was the year. That's the only hesitation I have, because 2016 was when people really got mad at social media.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's when we realized just how bad it had gotten.
Oh yeah. But they stuck around because it's the argument for why people stay on Facebook. I have family on those platforms. I can't just cut myself off from them. I'm saying this as somebody who left Facebook back in 2018 and still keeps in touch with family members. Not all of your family members need to be kept in touch with.
Yeah.
Oh, if there are people who you want to stay in touch with that so far like Facebook is your only method, find another method to reach out to that same person.
Yeah.
Because if you care about them that much and they care about you that much, you both will find a way.
Yeah. It's, I don't know. It's just, I'm very curious what the landscape's going to be like in 10 years. I'm hoping we're right.
I'm thinking we will be. I'm thinking that we're not going to see Facebook or who knows what the heck TikTok will do. Like I don't think those platforms are, if they're going to be around within the next 10 years, they're not going to have the same ubiquity that they do now.
Yeah, that's honestly my big hope with a lot of it. I'd like to see newer platforms that do stuff differently and or better.
Yeah, you can't reinvent things if you are using the same toolbox.
Yeah, it bothers me also how few people and corporations own each of these platforms.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's funny to me that increasingly, even though they've, like, it always cycles who we consider the bad guy. And currently I feel like Google is on an upswing on not being seen as the bad guy because there's a lot of other bad guys out there, but they own so much of social media right now. Like,
yeah, they do.
And it's a problem. They are borderline monopolized.
Borderline.
I'd say borderline because you've still got Facebook, you've still got Twitter, but they're both owned by, billionaires who have an vested interest in controlling the narrative. Like,
oh yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting. This is something that there's other videos about this, like on YouTube and such like that, talking about how there's media nowadays, from Netflix shows to YouTube videos to whatnot, that like borderline encourage people to empathize and sympathize with the billionaire class. We really need to bring back the whole idea of eat the rich, in my opinion. But that is a topic for a different day.
Yeah, but it's more, I'm more interested in having an expanded conversation than anything else. I will say one of the channels that is doing that kind of stuff pretty well, a lot better, is Dropout. I have been watching Dropout maybe more than I've been watching YouTube. Like, I watch it a lot.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm thinking about signing up for Nebula because a lot of the creators that I watch on YouTube are on Nebula, and there's some stuff that they make that is Nebula exclusive that's not on YouTube.
Yeah. And it's funny though, because when I'm on Dropout, it is a service that a friend of mine is paying for. By the way, fun fact, with the whole Netflix
cracking down on password sharing and account sharing.
Dropout straight up shared, hey, if you know somebody you can't afford Dropout, feel free to share your account.
Aww.
Like, they literally posted that on Twitter, and I'm like, that's awesome. They also
awesome, but you know that they did that as a way to dig into the Netflix controversy.
Well, yeah, of course they did. But they were also right. But one of the things that's also cool, they just posted a video saying, now is a good time to, we're actually going to do a disc. They were changing it so there's no longer just going to be the monthly option. There's an annual option that will save you a lot of money. Now is a good time to pay us less, is how they've raised it. I'm watching their stuff. It's great quality. There are no ads at all.
Yeah.
Their platform works on a lot of on all my devices, which is impressive because I have an old iPad that, by the way, Apple, stop with your planned obsolescence crap with your software. It makes me so angry.
Honestly, a lot of things have planned obsolescence built into them.
Yeah,
it's not just Apple.
That's true, but Apple's worse about it. Like, straight up, I cannot, even if they have technically older versions of a lot of their apps, I often cannot get them because they've decided I'm not allowed to download it.
I see your Apple and I raise you a Nintendo.
Yeah. I was laughing because one of my friends was you heard about the Breath of the Wild controversy?
I don't know about the controversy. I know of Breath of the Wild. So what's the latest?
Wall 2 is coming out. I can't remember what the actual name is, but it's a sequel.
Tears of the Kingdom.
Tears of the Kingdom. They accidentally briefly posted it in the store when they weren't supposed to, and its price tag is $70, which a lot of people were upset about because normally these games, are 60. For the record, it doesn't really bother me because most games now are $70 at when they first come out, like most AAA titles. But a lot of people were upset. One of my friends posted was like, I thought Nintendo was supposed to be the cheap system. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? Their consoles are cheaper, sure, but their games never drop in price. It is the most frustrating thing on the planet. What do you mean? It's like saying, oh, I guess they're now making BMWs expensive. What are you talking about?
The idea that Nintendo is the cheap system and you have to buy a new system every time that they announce a new game.
Like, that's not even.
It's like the Kingdom Hearts of game systems.
It's ridiculous. Like, here's the thing: getting a new system, they genuinely make their systems different. I'm kind of okay with that because, like, you can't play 3DS games on a Switch. I get that. It's legitimate. There are reasons that some of the stuff doesn't work, and they do some really interesting innovation. I tend to appreciate that. When they release a $60 game, it stays $60 for way too long. 10 years down the road, it'll still be $40. Like any other company, like I have a Switch. I like my Switch a lot. I very rarely get games for it because on Xbox, I have Game Pass. And I get so many games monthly for a monthly fee instead of having to shell out all this money.
Yeah, I don't really game all that much. That might change, but we'll see.
But if you do game, honestly, if you play 15 hours a month in gaming, you're basically paying $1 a month for whatever you're doing. That is worth it.
I feel like 15 hours a month is still a really generous allotment to try to give to me. I legitimately do not game that much, not video games anyway.
I game an offensive amount. So
yeah, no. As far as gaming goes, there's a reason why I co-host a podcast about tabletop gaming.
Yes, but anyway, the point was like. I don't know. That was just really funny to me that everyone's like, $70, how dare you? You're supposed to be the cheap console. I'm like,
it's like they have never been the cheap console. Never.
Wait a minute. Do you mean this is farmed caviar?
Yeah, no, just oh man. It's like now Brain is trying to come up with an analog between like Windows, Mac, and Linux, but the analogy's not there yet, but it's percolating.
Yeah. I was talking about companies that are suddenly the good guy. Weirdly, Microsoft has had that turnaround.
It's funny you mentioned that because I saw in the news this morning that there has been some interesting feedback concerning their chatbot search engine, which is that if you ask the chatbot search engine too many questions, it becomes increasingly more unhinged. So they're putting a cap on how many questions you ask it in a given day.
Oh, I want to see this. That sounds fun.
I will share the link with you when I find it again. It's in the email newsletter, but it's like there was a point where like that chatbot search engine was like actively stalking a New York Times journalist and was like, "You should date me and not your wife." And it's like, okay, sure. Yeah,
it's like this chatbot does things for me my wife won't do, like write my articles for me.
That's definitely true if you're a Wall Street Journal journalist. I'll say that. Oh, that we're veering way off topic.
We are way off topic.
Yeah,
that usually happens at the 2-hour mark.
Yeah, this actually might be a good place to like wrap things up here. So like, in short, if this is like TLDR or you missed a good chunk of the stream, like we've just been chatting about social media and its creeping downfall and other outlets that exist out there for independent creators like comic artists or YouTubers to get out and share their stuff. Some of the alternatives we've discussed in length are things like Discord, but we've also touched on email newsletters, crowdfunding campaigns, and other sorts of platforms. Just watch this video.
Yeah,
it's available as it'll be available as a replay on YouTube.
You can replay it. You can play it at 4 times speed. Just get through the whole thing. You'll learn a lot.
Yeah, exactly. So before we wrap everything up, Ben, tell the good people how they can find your work online and the kinds of work that you do.
Sounds good. Well, most of my work is comics. You can find me at bwhcomics.com, right down there. I'm also at bwhcomics on Patreon, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. Every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, I do game streaming on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/bwhcomics. We are currently playing through Danganronpa 2. We're just starting the trial for the 4th case. So if any of you are into those games and want to check that out, it's my first time playing through it, so that's been pretty great. You can also find Cospain, my weeb comic about cosplay and convention craziness, over at cospaincomic.com.
There you go. And if you would like to check out any of my stuff, all of my links are going to be at kelseydcrawford.com. That said, there are some certain social media platforms that I am looking to transition away from, but I will be posting more frequently on a blog that I run through kelseydcrawford.com. We mentioned it briefly, but I feel like this is worthy of mentioning. Like, I keep a blog and it still has active readers. Like, I feel like that might be a little bit of a rarity to say, considering how ubiquitous social media is right now, but like, never underestimate.
Yeah, my website's basically a blog also. Like, it's got that
never underestimate the power of a good blog.
Yeah. And it automatically updates to my Goodreads page too. So
yeah, there you go. So yeah, all of my links, including webcomics, my videos, my past live streams, all of that good stuff is going to be at kelseydcrawford.com. Now, I'm going to announce this now so that people know this is the last live stream that I am hosting for a good while. I know, very sad. That said, I will be making guest appearances on other streams. So, Ben, if you ever want me to guest on a stream, just hit me up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Also, just sort of the exact opposite, I'm planning to start doing some Saturday streaming.
There you go.
Honestly, I'm not getting through games fast enough doing it on Tuesday. So I'm going to be periodically doing Saturday streams where I take the day and just play through some of the games I wanted to do. The first one I'm going to be doing is going to be coming up, and I want us to be playing through Persona 3 because I love that game and I really want to share it with people.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
I'm going to keep an eye out for, if you follow any of my social media or track down my Discord, you'll be able to find out when that's happening.
Heck yeah. So be sure to check out Ben's stuff there. Now, I know I did say that I was wrapping up live streams. However, if you're following me on YouTube, don't think that this is the end of my YouTube channel. I will still be posting video blogs and things like that, and videos and speed paints and things like that. So if you're watching this on YouTube, just subscribe to my YouTube channel. Do all the YouTube things. I don't know what the YouTube spiel is right now. Just do the things. If you're watching this on Twitch, thank you so much for your support the last long while, but this is going to be a hiatus on the Twitch account for a while. And if you're watching this on Twitter, same thing. The account's going to be on hiatus for a little while. With the caveat that with Twitter, I'm going to be talking a lot more about the anthology that I'm a part of, Failure to Launch, published through Iron Circus Comics. That's at least until the campaign wraps up on March 8th. So, all of that said, check us out on our various websites, bwhcomics.com or kelseydcrawford.com. That's all we got for now. Thank you all so much for watching. You are awesome.
Rock on, guys, and never stop drawing.